wanted to get their curse words out, then now's not the time to do it. Okay. Would have been the time a couple minutes ago. So I'm just waiting for this thing to load, but we are live. So we're going to go through again, just to briefly summarize what we're going to go through. The first thing we're going to go through is lead quality and a couple changes that we're going to make to make lead quality better. And then we're going to go through the advanced training after that. The lead quality piece should only take 15 or 20 minutes. It's just a brief overview of what we're going to do, the changes that we're going to make over the next couple weeks. Okay, so the first thing is, we talked about this, but adding an extra call to any leads called in on Friday. Now, how does that work? Okay, so the important things to remember about this, because it's important. It's not, we're not going to cancel out leads that just don't answer the phone. What I mean by that is that, you know, let's say that you set a lead on Friday and then they call it on Sunday to reconfirm it or whatever. Then if the person doesn't answer, they're not going to send somebody out there. It's still confirmed. It's still in the system, confirmed and stuff like that. The only thing that they're going to do is they're going to add a call to allow the customer to reschedule, hopefully, or yes, cancel if they really want to, before we send a rep out to a not home. Now, what this enables us to do is, you know, look, the amount of these leads that not home and then go through reschedule, it's slim because we don't get a hold of the people after they're not home. So there's no benefit to that. Like it might feel good to get a lot of leads on a Friday or something like that, but the problem with this is that they're so separated from the time that they're actually getting confirmed. We already have an issue with next days going through at a good rate. They're not canceling, but they're not homing and things like that, which is, you know, even more uncomfortable than a cancellation. And so what this enables us to do is, look, it's not going to ruin your lead. If the person is going to cancel because of a confirmation call, then they're not going to plan to do that appointment. And so, you know, if they don't answer the phone, then it still goes through. There's no negative repercussions or anything like that. But if they do answer, then it enables the call center a chance to, you know, the confirmers are our best people for rebuttaling, right? A lot of the call centers not great at rebuttaling. The confirmers are very good at rebuttaling. So it allows them a chance to rebuttal the customer and get the customer back on the board, either for a different day or for that same day, but, you know, allows them not to cancel. So that's what that enables us to do. And the important thing there is, again, we are not going to cancel a lead because they don't answer. So we're not going to do that. And that should be very important to you guys, because obviously people get busy on Sundays. And if we were doing that, then we'd see a lot more cancellations than we need to see. Okay. Now, my suggestion is, you know, what I would do if I was you. I still don't know if I would tell people that we're going to call to confirm. Okay. If they ask, the way that I always approach this is, if the customer asks me if a lead's going to be, if are they going to call me back, you know, hey, are they going to call me back the day of the appointment or something like that? The first question I always ask is, why? Is there a problem with the appointment that we set? You know, and the reason why I ask that question is because it's going to bring up whatever the issue is. So the customer might say, no, not really, but just in case. Okay, fine. Then I'll just leave it. I'll say something like, they may or may not call to confirm an address or information that they need. But if anything does come up, please give us a call, you know, before we come out there or whatever, something like that. But if the person says something like, yeah, I just don't know if my wife's going to be interested in this, then it's my chance to give a rebuttal. Okay, well, you know, I'll tell you what, sir. I mean, obviously you see the importance of this. You see the value in this. We're just leaving you with a free quote that's good for an entire year. And I want to remind you of a couple of things, you know, because you're seeing us right now. We do have promotions that you won't be offered through any other department. I'm including this $500 gift card that I'm giving you. So if you could just let your wife know that it's no obligation or cost whatsoever, and we'll plan on seeing you tomorrow or whatever, Monday at this time and that time. And so that will, again, it gives the customer the ammo to fight for you when their spouse comes home. Now, the other thing is, and well, we'll go through that in a second, because I think you guys are going to like some of the lead quality stuff that we're going to put into place. That deepens the customer's commitment to you. Okay. So here's what I would do, though. This is the action that I would take. I would look at the schedule on Sunday night and check out your leads to see if you see any discrepancies. Now, why is this important? What I mean by discrepancies first is, did the call center cancel something out? Okay. And then just make a mental note or just text me and say, hey, can you tell me why this canceled out? Well, let's say you see something that's unconfirmed that you believe should be confirmed. Anything like that. It's not normal stuff, but it can happen. Anything can happen. So I think that's a great time to check your leads anyways, because they've been sitting there for a couple of days. And you want to know how your week's going to start off. So I would check the schedule on Sunday night to see what the status is of some of those leads. Okay. So the second thing that we're going to do regarding lead quality is add scripting to help set add scripting to help the customer understand the value. And there's a couple things that we're going to do here. Okay, so the first thing is,
Hey. Sorry.
no problem. Thank you very much. Thank you. What I,
$15.
all right, sounds good. As soon as we get a break in this, I will come in.
All right.
Oh, strawberry apricot. I don't think I ever tried this kind. Look at that. It's nice. Good.
I figured it would go okay with the red Mio.
I'm just gonna, I'm gonna drink it like this. I'm gonna drink it straight. I'm not gonna put Mio in this. I don't want it to ruin the flavor.
I never know what's up.
In regular Rebels, I put Mio on them.
Okay, that's much.
No, it changes the flavor. It's good. All right. So adding the scripting to understand, so the customer can understand the value. Okay. So a couple things here. So first, we've talked about one of them at length. So I'm gonna write it down here. But the first one is to recommit the customer before the phone call. And that scripting should go something like this. So you're about to get on the phone. Okay. So you're literally, you've done the box 1 and 2. You say, look, I'm going to get the office on the phone. But before I do that, I just want to explain again what we're going to do when we come out here. We will be, well, first I'd remind them this is a completely free service. This is, again, completely free. And the quote we leave you with is no obligation and good for a full year, for 1 full year. In addition, we will check and test your windows and report all of our findings to you. Something like that. It doesn't need to be exactly. That's the beauty of this whole thing, is it should sound very off the cuff. So, I'm going to say it in a different way now, because I think when I say it out loud, it sounds a little bit different. So I get that. I say, okay, I'm going to get the office on the phone. It will just take a second. It'll just take a second. By the way, too, before I do that, I just want to, remind you that when we come out, this is a completely free and it's no obligation. When we come out, we're just going to test the energy efficiency of your windows. We're going to test any other windows that you want to see, any other problems that you might have. And then we're going to leave you with a free price quote that, again, is no obligation and locked in for an entire year. So you can give us a call back whenever you're ready to do something with the windows. So I'm recommitting the customer in that way, right? So it doesn't, the language, the important parts of the language is, as many times as you can get free and no obligation in there, the better. 1 full year, testing the windows, the things that they like about the appointment, and then the things that they aren't as thrilled about, which is typically the free quote. They have to understand what we're doing while we're out there. But this recommits them to the simplicity of the appointment. It's not an opportunity to buy. You don't need to buy windows. It's just an opportunity to take a look, and for us to take a look at your windows. Okay. The second part of scripting there is recommit at the end of the appointment, especially if you are not as comfortable with the quality. Okay, now how do we do that? Okay, this is right at the end of the appointment. So you're handing the customer stuff, right? And so the one thing I'd remind them, okay, is I'd say, Mr. Jones, before I go, I have a couple of things to give you. And then there's a couple words I'll put in there, but like, we'll go over that in a second. Okay. And then I'd say, $500 gift card, so on and so forth. And then I would say, please, this is where the scripting comes in. Please make sure you show this to Mrs. Jones so she knows why we are coming out. Okay. So you're just recommitting the customer to getting both people there. That's something that you can do. It's easy. It's simple. Okay. And I think, generally, guys, what I would do, and this is an important note that I'm not going to write down. What I would do is every time I talk about the appointment or the commitment, after I schedule the appointment, I'm mentioning Mrs. Jones. Every time if I ask Mr. Jones what he does for work, I'm saying, oh, okay. And what does Mrs. Jones do? I'm reminding the customer at every step why it's important to have both people there. You might say, well, this is supposed to be advanced training. Why are we going through this? This is as advanced as you can get. Advanced is getting I almost just swore there, getting your appointments to run. Okay, that's advanced, because I'll tell you what, there's nothing worse than starting out in the job, being told, oh, you can make this money and this and that or whatever. And then you go in, you set 10 appointments and all of them cancel. And it's like, well, what the hell's going on? So this is about as advanced as you can get. Getting your appointments to run is very important. Okay. All right. Next thing. And we only got 2 things left. So in this part, the next thing is commit. And this is very important. Commit the customer to you. You got to commit the customer to you. Okay. Now, what does that mean? You got to make this person feel loyal to you at their door, to you being at their door. All right. So the way that you would do that is show an extreme amount of appreciation and explain to them how important it is to you that they were welcoming to you. So you're not saying, oh my God, thank you so much, I can feed my kids finally now. They haven't eaten in weeks. No, you're not doing that. Okay. You're just committing them to being a good person. You know what I'm saying? So just to give you an example of something that you can say, and you got to be genuine with it, but you might say something like, Mr. Jones, I just need to tell you, I am so grateful for the time you've given me. I know this took time out of your day, but it means so much to me. That you've given us the opportunity to come visit you and remember, and Mrs. Jones, right? Again, it's commit the person. The key is here, guys, is when Mrs. Jones comes home, what is the conversation? Is Mr. Jones going, he was such a good guy. You got to make sure we're there. Such a great person. Or is Mr. Jones like, yeah, it's an appointment for tomorrow, and Mrs. Jones like, cancel. Well, we're not going to be home for that. And then they just do nothing about it. They don't reschedule. They just don't call. They're just not home. And I'll tell you what, I got a message from a rep yesterday about Dylan Grubb, who's been writing a ton of leads. Okay. And his leads, a lot of them have been going through too. He's getting a lot of demos. And the customer was so happy about how grateful he was for the time that the customer had given him. The customer made sure to mention to Adam Chubb how grateful she was for what he did for her and how he approached her. So just understand that, again, it does make an impact on customers when you are gracious to them versus thankful. Okay. Being grateful versus thankful are 2 different things. It's 2 different sets of language. Okay. It's so one thing from, there's that whole, Joe was talking about the whole grateful thing and whatnot, and how to do that. This is the one thing that's super important, is that the customer understands what they've done for us is a positive thing as well. And again, it's not, oh my God, you just made me commission, thank you so much. It's stupid, right? It's not that. It's not thank you for the appointment. No, it's thank you for your time. You're giving us your time, and that means a lot to me. And finally, the biggest change for you guys is what we used to call, what David Yoho used to call, I can't say myself because I got very embarrassed with this language, but he used to call it the dance. And that's the way that you communicate with the call center. Okay, the way that you communicate with the call center. Now, we used to communicate a lot more with them, and this is something that we're going to start next week. So if someone's out there today, I would not start this today because the call center is going to go, what the hell is this guy doing? Okay. But it's the language you use when you call the office. So right now, currently, basically what we say right now is we go, hi, this is, John. And then the person will go, okay, I need a scheduler. I'm from North and I need a scheduler or whatever. And then the person goes, okay, they patch you open and they go, what's the phone number? And then that's the basic extent of your conversation with the call center, right? So we used to go through this whole thing. We would go through the information even though they had it. We'd say, hi, I'm here with John and Kim Smith. They own a beautiful home at 123 Main Street. Their phone number is 717-224-2424. Their cell phone number is 777, whatever. We're not doing all that, okay? We are not doing all that. We're just adding the elements that get us on recording, going through the 90 minutes in both homeowners home for the appointment. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to say something like this. All right, so I'm gonna write it out as I'm saying it. So, hi, this is not Tisses. This is Paul Duffy with Central. Can I please have a scheduler? Okay, something like that. And then the scheduler gets on and I go, hi, and I'm just going to write down scheduler here. You're not going to say scheduler, obviously. Okay, I'm gonna make sure that I put that in like stars or whatever around it. You're not going to say hi scheduler. That would be weird. Say the person's name. Okay. Hi scheduler. I am here with Mr. John Jones, and he has been sharing his beautiful home with me. I explained to Mr. Jones, and then here I'll say this instead of I explain. You'd say something like, I know you are going to cover this, but I explained to Mr. Jones that this is a free, no obligation service, and that we need to meet with him and Mrs. Jones for at least 90 minutes. I am going to put you on the phone now. Thank you. Now, and again, it might look a couple words different than that or whatever, because I want to try to cut it down as best as possible. Here's the deal. You're going to give them the phone number as well, obviously. Okay, here's the deal. There's a period of time where they're pulling up the lead anyways. You give them the phone number, and it takes a couple seconds anyways for them to pull the lead up. This is just said while that's going on. So it doesn't take any time away at all or anything, because they're pulling the lead up, right? So while they're pulling the lead up, you're just saying this part. It's a couple lines. It doesn't take up any time at all. And yeah, are they going to repeat it? Yeah, they're going to. That's their job. But here's the deal. You're saying right in front of the customer, hey, I know you're going to cover this, but I want to let you know that Mr. Jones did let me know that he could set aside at least 90 minutes. Or I did let Mr. Jones know that we're going to have to set aside at least 90 minutes for him and Mrs. Jones. So as long as you say, hey, I know you're going to cover this, but then you're fine. As long as you say that, you're fine. Make sure the customer hears you say that. The point of this is that it holds you accountable for doing the right thing on recording. So no one can be squared as to whether or not you said at least 90 minutes or whether or not you committed Mrs. Jones to being there as well. Okay, so this is going to protect us against one parties and not homes. Okay. And run out of times, ones that we run out of time on too. It's gonna help us against all of those things because one parties are a problem as well. Okay. So these are the lead quality notes. The last thing I'd say too, just and this it should be the obvious, but I guess part E here would be don't be stupid about your leads. Don't set up stuff that we can't do. I almost swore again. Don't set up stuff that we can't do. If the person is sitting there going, yeah, I don't know if that would work. I don't know if that would work. You can, yeah, sure, whatever. Just put me in for it, tomorrow at 2:00, but I'll have to call you back. Can you guys can call to confirm tomorrow? It's not an appointment if the person is completely resistant to it and is just very clearly trying to get you out of there. Like you have to understand what the customer is trying to do to an extent. And again, you're going to have those that pass through. But if you have too many of them, look, you're lying to yourself and you're going to sit there expecting to have a bunch of demos go through. It's not going to happen. You're going to be pissing when you don't know why they're not going through. Now you can get somebody like Dylan Grubb, for example, who's had a tremendous week writing leads, has been great since he started with writing leads, and he has a lot of demos. His cancellation rate's not perfect. It's not perfect. His demo rate's not perfect, but he is getting a lot of demos. He is making a lot of money because he's getting a lot of demos. And the same thing goes for a lot of people here. So you don't have to set up 3 leads and have all of them canceled. You don't have to set up 7 demos and have, 2 of them go through. Now, don't get me wrong. You don't want to be at 3 or 7 demos for the week set up, but you should be able to expect that the majority of your appointments are going to go through. Now, cancellations happen to everybody. We know that. But what should the percentage be? You should be able to expect 40% of your total leads to fall off, maybe 45 with no demos. So if you're writing 12 leads a week, then you're going to get 7 demos a week. And you can get a lot more than that. And then if you add in callbacks and stuff like that, then you're going to be over that every week. So you can do that, but you just can't be stupid about the way you set up your leads. If you set up something that is obviously a trailer, then it's obviously not going to go through. And it could put a sales rep into a bad position to go out there and sell. So think about stuff like that before you set it up. Okay, we're going to head into the different training. And give me a second to set us up here. 1 second. Any questions on lead quality while I'm doing this? So Penny, real quick. I'm going to put one of these out for you so you have it, what we're going to be going off of. Okay.
Think enough more if I write it down anyway.
Well, yeah, but it's a whole script.
Oh, okay.
You've seen it before. It's not a big deal. I just want you to have it by the time you leave here because it's stuff that you're going to know and that you're familiar with. We're just going to use it to jump into the conversation. That's all. Okay. So it's not letting me print anyway. So we can just grab it after.
Do you need something printed?
What?
You need something printed?
Potentially. Let me try to send this to you.
I just printed out Mark.
Okay. What's your what email? Your
Just do my RBA. TD police.
got it. All right, guys, 1 second. Sorry. All right, Tony, I just sent that to you from my personal email. Okay. So we're just going to use this as a guide to get us into the conversation. I know. Well, I'll ask you guys this one at a time. Who has seen or not seen this document? I guess if you've seen this, put up the little thumbs that you can do on your profile here. Or just unmute yourself and say that you have. Okay, I guess most of you haven't seen this. Just one. Yeah. I mean, actually print like 3 just so I have a couple extra. All right, so this is what we're going to be going through in new hire training from now on, in addition to the script. I think some of you guys have seen this and maybe just don't realize that you've seen it before. It's a script study guide. And what it does is it shows you in initial training where you can deviate easily from the script, where the script is almost going to force you to change. So teaching this is dangerous in a way because it's different than the script. It doesn't look different than the script, but it is different than the script. That being said, we're going to just use this to see how deep we can dive. We're not going to just go through the things in the script. This is beginner stuff. We're going to start here for people that are on here that are kind of beginners, but then we're going to dive a lot deeper into how you can change and develop the script and why it's built the way that it is. Well, I want to point out that it's a system, not a script. One of the biggest things that Ryan told me when he came back from visiting another office was that our script, which I don't consider aggressive at all or assertive at all, is way more assertive than that company's scripting. Now, I know the company's scripting because I used to work for that company, but I don't think it's more assertive. I don't think our script is more assertive. I think that our script it deals with more problems. We are coming from a completely different perspective than any other department, and that's what makes us stronger. Every other department's perspective is how can I wrestle the customer down to the floor until they submit and give up and set up an appointment with me. We shouldn't be taking that same mentality. We don't need to take that same mentality. And I think that the fact that some of our guys do take that mentality, that same mentality, I think that's part of the issue because it's not a winning game. Thank you. It's not a winning game. Doing that, having that level of it's going to make you not feel great about your job, and you don't have to do that. It doesn't mean that you're leaving houses early. It doesn't mean that you're not rebuttaling. It doesn't mean that you're not, pushing through situations. It just means that you're doing it in a way that is not in direct conflict with the customer. Okay. Your script should be so developed that you can anticipate and take care of any objection the customer is going to give you. Think about that for a second. Think about the value in that. Think about the strength in that. The customer gives me an objection and it strengthens my script. It makes my script stronger. Every objection the customer gives makes me better, makes my opportunity greater to get an appointment. But with a couple simple steps. So we're going to go through those. We're going to dive through this guide real quick. And I know this is going to be kind of boring for some people, but this is going to give us a catalyst to make real change. And there's one thing I really want to point out to you guys. You can turn every customer objection into a strength. Every customer objection. And there's 2 different ways to do that. I'm going to go through both those ways. So first, when we're teaching this, there's a couple ways that we teach to deviate, starting right from the beginning. Good afternoon. My name is Paul Duffy. I hope you're Mr. Jones. Hi, Mr. Jones. I'm with Renewal by Anderson. We just did some work for Mr. Smith on 123 Main Street. And the reason why I stopped here is I noticed that you're going to be replacing your windows soon, and I may be able to help. That's what the script says. That's what it said for years. Okay. So as a starting point, if you don't know that the script says that, then you should not even be on this train. Okay. If you don't know that the script says, I notice you're going to be replacing your windows soon, and I may be able to help. Now, you might not do that at every house, and I agree with you. Because houses are different. There's better things to say. There's things that you can say that will carry more information to the customer. But you should at least know that. If you don't know your original script, if I can't say to you right now, hey, recite the script word for word, and besides a couple words here and there, you do it perfectly through. If you can't do that, then you should not be on this training. You shouldn't be on the road if you can't do that. So make that priority if you are in that situation, to make sure that you know your scripting like the back of your hand. I don't know the back of my hand very well, I guess, but you get my point. Before you dive into changing your scripting. So a couple examples that we give here. Keep in mind, this is an initial training, okay? The way that we're going to teach this is right after somebody memorizes the script, the next day, we are going to go over this stuff with them, maybe in a separate room, or just, at the class together if they all have it down. But the couple ways this could change, just as an example, is instead of saying, I noticed that you're going to be replacing your windows soon, we would say the reason why I stopped is because I noticed that you had the original plastic windows here. How long have you lived in the home? Or the reason why I stopped is because I noticed that you had the original old vinyl windows here. How long have you lived in your home? Or the reason why I stopped is because I noticed that your windows were rotting pretty severely and I may be able to help. Now, how long have you lived in your home? Or any problem, insert issue right there. Or you could say the reason why I stopped is because I've been talking to a ton of your neighbors and they all have the same problems I can see here. How long have you lived in your home? Okay. The reason why I stopped is because, sir, I saw how visibly your windows were having issues and I wanted to make sure that I stopped by to talk to you. Now, how long have you lived in your home? Insert problem, right? Let's say I go to a door, and I would not suggest this for someone that's been here for probably less than 4 or 6 months. The way I would go up to a home is if I see new window replacements, new windows done, I'm going to address it right away. The reason why I stopped here is because it looked like you had done most of your windows. How many did you have left to replace? Okay. Well, notice you had done some work with your windows. When you did them, how many did you do? Okay. How many do you have left in your home, right? You can dive deeper in with questions too, to ensure that the customer is giving you an honest answer. So there's so many ways to change this part. You can say almost anything here, right? And it's a slight deviation, but it means so much. So much. Imagine if I just said, I noticed you had I noticed that you we're going to be replacing your windows and I may be able to help at every single door, no matter what. Imagine if I walk up to somebody's house who did their windows 3 months ago, stickers are still in their windows, and I said, hey, I noticed you're going to be replacing your windows soon, and I may be able to help. That's not going to get me anywhere, right? What it's going to do is it's going to tell the customer, this guy does not know what he's talking about. And then even if the customer does have older windows in the back of the house, something like that, then I've lost already. I'm not going to be able to get that customer. It's not going to happen, right? That makes sense? Any questions on that? Okay. Now the question, how long have you lived in the home? That's new to the script. I added that in after COVID, okay? After COVID. After I started using it after COVID, I probably added it in, I don't know, 3 or 4 months after COVID, after we came back from COVID. Nobody was using that. That wasn't a question that people asked. But what I noticed when I was using it myself in that couple months after we came back from COVID, I was on the road quite a bit. And what I noticed was that every time I would ask that question, how long have you lived in the home? I would get an answer that was beneficial to me in some way, shape, or form. Now, how is it beneficial to me? Well, the first way that it would be beneficial to me is it might start a very personal, fun conversation about, them having a new house, right? They just bought a new house. It might start a conversation that's interesting about why they've lived there for 30 years, right? It's great for personal connections. The second thing I noticed is that it gives me, as somebody that's been with the company for a while, it gives me a chance to vet the customer. Their attitude is going to come out in that part of the script, whether it's good or bad. And so I get to know what I'm dealing with. Now, for a lot of people that just started pretty recently, I wouldn't dig too far into that, right? But for me, I'm not going to get shaken up by whether or not a customer is an asshole, okay? I know I'm on recording. I'm not going to get shaken up by whether or not a customer is an asshole. That's not going to happen for me because I've been with the company for a long time. I think that once you've been there for a couple of weeks, you're prepared to deal with that. So for me, it just gives me necessary information that's helpful for how I communicate with that customer. So if I say to the customer, hey, how long have you lived in the home? And they go, 5 years. Why? What do you want? Then that's not going to shake me up, right? So I'm not going to worry too much about that. No problem, right? But it's a good piece of information for me to have because I know, hey, I'm going to get down to business with this guy, right? I'm going to tell him what I see. Well, sir, the reason why I walked up is because I noticed X, Y, and Z. You definitely need to get these windows replaced. I'm going to make a suggestion for you. I might take more control because of the way that the customer acts, right? So that's going to help me in that way. it's going to also help me gauge, and this might be the most important thing, what they know about the windows. If they just moved into the home, I probably have a lot more control over the window problems. They probably know very little about the house, and that's an easy conversation. Okay, so how long have you lived in the home? I just moved in. Oh, okay, so you probably don't know anything about these windows yet. Yeah, and they didn't go over that with you at all when you bought the house? Wow, well, look, I'm sorry, but I want to go through a couple things with you. There's a couple things I noticed here walking up, and I wouldn't feel okay if I didn't go through this with you, right? That's a great way to handle that. Does that make sense? Let's say the person's been there for 30 years, and I noticed that they're replacement windows. Well, now I know my next follow-up question is probably going to be something like, how long have you lived in the home? They answer the question, and then I say, okay, how long ago did you get the windows replaced? So these windows look like they are replaced, sir, but they do look a bit older. Are they 15 years old, 20 years old, right? It's going to help me in that regard. They probably know more about the home. It doesn't mean that the windows are good. It doesn't mean that they don't need new windows, but it helps me with that conversation. If they've done multiple sets of windows, let's say that they did some 10 years ago and they did some 5 years ago and they did some 25 years ago, then what it tells me is that they've never committed to a kind of window. They probably didn't like the windows they put in if they're all different windows in the house. So I can have that conversation. Okay, it looks like you've done some of the windows here, Mr. Jones. Why some and not the rest? What kind of problems are you having in these windows that you replace? Why didn't you like the replacement windows that you got? Well, sir, let me point out why you don't want to buy replacement windows like this, because you can see here in these windows, so on and so forth. It helps with the conversation if it's leveraged the right way. It's all about leveraging the conversation the right way. That's what this is all about. That's what our script allows us to do. That's why it's different from other scripts. There's two, when people ask me, which over the last week I've probably been asked a million times in the most cliche, weird way possible, what's the secret sauce or whatever? You ever hear that expression? Tony, have a good one, man. What's the secret sauce? The two things that I would say, if my quickest answers would be our team and our team atmosphere and environment. People are go-getters. It was fucking so. Oh, now I'm on recording saying that. Great. Fantastic. It is what it is. It is what it is. It's going to stay up. So it was so cold yesterday, so windy and so cold, but we went after it. And we take pride in it. I know it sucks. But it's going to be different in a month. It will probably be different in a week. That being said, we go after it anyways. That's what's different about our team. There's no, I'm sure some people bitch and whine about it, and fine, that's okay. I get it. I absolutely do. I've done this job for 13 years, and I was on the road for 7 years straight in Philadelphia area and in Boston. So I fully understand the cold. And I know that I didn't enjoy it. Okay. Especially on the days that I didn't prepare and I thought I was prepared, and I realized, oh man, I forgot this or I forgot that. It's rough, but we go after it anyways. And there's a certain pride. That's one part of the secret sauce, I guess. The other part is the way that we handle our scripting. There's a lot of scripts that are very similar to ours. If you were to take, for example, the Arizona script and put it next to ours, you would have to dig to find the differences. The biggest difference is in the way that they see their scripting, the way that they use their scripting. So the second part to our script here is the need conversation. So where do we make, I guess everything about the need is changes, right? Oh, hold on one second. My microphone disconnects. It should be good. The microphone disconnected real quick. Let me just make sure. Yep, it's on. All right, cool. So the need conversation is another area where we differ from other companies. First thing I want you to understand is that when I started with the company, I got 0 window training. There was one question we asked at every house, which is, what kind of problems are you having? Are they drafty, hard to open and close, not energy efficient, or something else? There was one other thing that I'm forgetting. Okay. That's what we asked. We didn't point out problems. If I saw fog in the glass, I didn't point it out. If I saw warping, I didn't point it out. If I saw that the windows didn't lock properly, I didn't point it out. I will ask you guys then, why did my team get more leads than most people here today? Okay. It's a question, not everybody, but it's a fair question. If I have a team of 8 to 10 people at all times, and they hold still to this day the demo records for teams in this company, why? For HPD in this company, they hold the records to this day. Our team HPD for months months and months was under a 5. Okay, under a 6 every single week, which means everybody was at 7 demos or more per week. Okay, why? Why is that? Why is there a difference there? The thing is that the benefit of not knowing window problems is you can't make them important, right? So no matter what, it didn't matter to us. Even if the windows looked brand new, we still have the same pitch. We didn't prejudge anything. You know what I'm saying? We didn't base our entire appointment on that conversation. So there's a good way to do this and a bad way to do this. The window problems are a great part of our script. Building need is super important to what we do. It is. But what about those appointments where we have trouble building need? What do? We just leave the house a lot of times. We get caught up in that window problem conversation. We don't take control and we never get past it. And that's what kills a lot of people's appointments. There's ways to get past it. There's 2 parts to that window problem conversation. We know that. And so your general goal should be, no matter what, I'm getting through the value of the visit. Even if the person goes, my windows are perfectly fine. They're great. They're not a problem at all. If we can get through the value of the visit and we can get to an appointment, then we can pull the window problems out of them in the second part of the window issues, in the second part of the need. And so that's one of our strengths, no doubt. The strength that we have is we can go out there and set appointments with need. You guys know window problems better than any department in the country. I've seen the window training. I've done the window training in other departments and other companies. It does not come close to the amount of information that we give you guys on window problems. Even if you're out there day one, I guarantee you that you know more than any other person that's been here for 3 months or less with any other department in the country. Guarantee it. Because of course they learn over time on the road, but that's how they're having to learn 100% of the issues. That being said, if we base our entire appointment off just need, then we're losing a very important segment of customers. And it's not like our lead quality hasn't suffered anyways, right? Our lead quality is suffering. That's not going to make our lead quality suffer. The key is, what is the need by the time you end the appointment? That's the key. And like the sales rep said, the most important thing is to have honest, good notes that are written by you, not by clicking buttons in ground force. That's the most important thing. So if those notes say something like, customer knows the windows are not good. We talked about it. They know the windows are not good, especially the front windows. They just want to get them replaced. That's fine. That's handwritten by you. That's better than new windows needed, age, whatever, this and that, whatever it says when you click the button. Okay. It shows that you had the conversation with the customer. That being said, our entire conversation in this part is based on change. It's based on adapting the script, right? So you're pointing out what you see first, and you're leading with that. You shouldn't lead with what the neighbors have. You should lead with what you see. When you lead with what the neighbors have, the issues the neighbors have, the problem with that is that you're telling the customer that you don't see any issues in their windows. Their windows separately, right? Now you might say something like, hey, I noticed a problem here. Your neighbor had the same issue. Fine, because you're pointing out that you see a problem. But we have a lot of people that are going out there and they're just saying, hey, I'm here because your neighbor had X, Y, and Z. Okay, good. I'm not my neighbor, buddy. What do you need, right? The customer might not be saying it, but they're thinking it. Now, if I walk up and I say, hey, I noticed warping on the front and bottom windows here. Your neighbor had the same exact issue, and they said that it caused their windows to be X or Y. What's a bigger problem for you? That's fine because you're pointing out the issue, and then you're bringing it back to the neighbor having the same issue. Okay?
Now, Paul, I got a question.
Go ahead.
When you said the handwrite in the comment box, what if you're talking to somebody and they're just like, well, I don't think there's anything wrong with my windows. Just, can you come and do an energy efficiency test? Do you want us to write that in the notes?
No, because we shouldn't be setting up appointments just for energy efficiency tests. So if a customer tells me, I just want you to come and do an energy efficiency test, that should not be set up. Because the basis of what we're doing is for a quote, right? And so it doesn't mean that we can't set up an appointment with no need, but the customer has to agree, hey, we're going to come out and give you a quote. What ends up happening if you can see this in some appointments, what team are you on?
I'm in West. I'm on most team.
Okay, cool. All right, yeah. Okay, you're in West. Yep. All right. So So if you talk to Mo or Mike about this, I think Mike at least is on here. I don't know if Mo is, but if you talk to Mike or Mo about this, I think that the way that they'd explain it, and they can show you a little bit more about it. But the biggest thing is it's not a problem to set a person that just needs an energy efficiency test. The problem is that when we set a person that way, a lot of times they're not committed to the quote. So what ends up happening is the sales rep gets out there and they go, okay, I'm just here for my energy efficiency test. And then the sales rep goes to give them a quote and they're like, no, I don't want a quote. I was told I get an energy efficiency test. That's what I want. Right. And so, the problem is that those leads don't go through very well. So what I would say is that the customer is going to have some kind of window problem, whether or not you can see it or whether or not they admit to it. That's the only thing that's different there. Right. But it's going to exist. If they have vinyl windows that are over 7 years old, then they're going to have problems. So, for example, one issue that you can point out to the customer and make them understand is that no matter what, if they have vinyl windows that are 7 years old, they're going to lose 50% or more of the energy efficiency in the glass because the argon gas inside naturally leaks out. Over 7 years. They've lost 50% of it. So like what I would do in a situation like that is I would make sure that in the second part of my window problems, like, down when I'm filling out the information, I would use things like that. I would say, well, sir, I do want to, when they say to me, well, no, I just want an energy efficiency test. I'll check things out. Okay, sir, we can definitely do that. But I want to explain a couple of things to you. First, when you have windows like this, let's say they're 10 years old, right? At 7 years, the windows have lost about 50% of their energy efficiency in the glass. Does that make sense, sir? Because the argon gas leaks out. And then when they say yes, go, okay, so you understand that the sales are definitely broken here. It's just not showing up yet on your window. All right. When they go, yeah, okay, I understand. Right. Then that's when you type in, something like, for example, explain to the customer that their sales are definitely not efficient, that they've lost some energy efficiency in their windows. That would be an example of something that you can put down there. Another thing that you could say is, I talked to Mrs. Smith a couple houses down. She had the original windows just like this. She said that her windows were hard to open and close, and that's why she replaced them. Or I should put it this way, Mr. Jones. She told me after she replaced her windows, they were so much easier to open and close. So I understand you're not having an issue opening and closing your windows, but can you understand how it would be easier to open and close your windows with brand new windows? Okay, great. The safety on new windows, sir, is so much better than it used to be. Windows like this are just not safe in your home. The locks don't work properly. A lot of times they malfunction, and it's not safe, especially if you have children, or if you have, ground floor level windows like this, sir. So new windows are a lot safer than these windows. Do you understand that, sir? Right? Stuff like that is stuff that you can still get into that box that you can get agreement on in that way. Does that make sense? Right.
Yeah, like I said, the only reason why I asked is because yesterday when I was out, I ran into somebody who had a recent quote from us. But I guess the person who set them up to get the quote mentioned about the energy test, and they wanted me to set them up just for the energy test. And I told them that that I didn't think I could do that. It would have to be like somebody would come out and give them a quote, and they kind of shut the door in my face and was like, well, somebody already gave, before she shut the door, she was like, well, somebody already gave me a quote a couple months ago. I want an energy test. And I was like, okay, well, let me make a call real quick. And she was like, no, never mind. It's okay. And then shut the door.
Yeah, you did the right thing. We don't want to go see that person anyways. It's just like, it's going to end up being a no demo regardless in a situation like that. So you did the right thing there. Making that call is the best thing to do in a situation like that.
Okay, yeah, that's why I was asking, because I wanted to make sure that I didn't do anything wrong.
No,
but I also didn't want to leave like a bad taste in somebody's mouth either, because I want people to like have a good experience, not a bad one.
Of course, no, you did the right thing. Absolutely did the right thing. 100%. All right, sir. All right, so you guys see though how you can leverage the window problems though, even if the person's not super agreeable about the window issues. It's about committing them to the things that you're showing them, right? You want them to, but you got to get that commitment. That's the biggest thing. So when you tell the customer something like, hey, you lost 50% of your energy efficiency in your windows, get them to commit to the understanding of that. So do you understand what I mean, sir, when I say that? Right? Yeah, I think so. Okay, so I can explain it to you further. After a while, the sales break in your windows and the energy efficient gas inside of the glass leaks out. And so your windows are no longer energy efficient. That's what's happened in your home, Mr. Jones. The way I know that is because the way the windows are manufactured, they're warranted for, a certain amount of time. So they would not, the energy efficiency doesn't last past that point, right? So vinyl windows, they're never warranted over 10 years. You never find, they have bullshit in there that's like, I keep swearing on this. They have bullshit in there that's like, oh, well, you got a warranty on your windows on rotting in it for over 20 years and it's a vinyl window. Well, yeah, it's never going to rot. So great. You'll see kinds of, we can, in a separate video, go through vinyl window warranties. They're very funny the way they work. I used to go through them in every training class, but it just takes too long. But some of these warranties are hilarious. Like, for example, there's one that has a fully transferable warranty. So to me, that means if someone buys my house, the warranty transfers. And then what it will say in the terms is it says, if you sell your home, then the person must re-sign up for the warranty within 90 days. And they have to pay $150 via check or credit card or whatever. And if there's a problem with the windows, then we'll give them a 50% discount off of any windows that need to be replaced. Like, that's not a warranty. That's a gift card, or that's a promotion. You're forcing them to buy new windows from your company if the windows screw up. It's clever, but it's not good. It's not good. And the fact that they have to pay to recommit to the warranty that doesn't even exist in the first place, it's not transferable at that point, Okay. So the next part is that question, that very important question. And this is also what's different about us guys. We talk about the secret sauce or whatever. The question, may I make a suggestion? The question, may I make a suggestion? Other scripts have stuff like that, but the way that we use it is what's most important. Now, what do I mean by that? When we ask that question, we know what we're doing, right? We're soliciting a yes from the customer, regardless of what's going on there. So, for example, when we say, may I make a suggestion, what you'll notice is 9 times out of 10, you don't get a no. Even when you get a no, you don't get a no. You get a, well, I'm really not interested right now, but you can make a suggestion, or sure, but I'm not buying windows, or something like that. You don't get a no, you can't make a suggestion most of the time. Occasionally you do, of course. Anything can happen occasionally, but you don't get a no the large majority of the time. You might get a weak yes, but you don't get a no from the customer. So it's a designed way to be able to commit the customer. And this is what I'm going to go through. One of the most important things I go through. And then I'm going to take a break. We'll come back in 10 minutes. So when you ask this question, may I make a suggestion? Again, what the customer says, guys, one of the best ways to handle objections is to make the reason why you're there that objection. Okay, is to kill the objection. So the customer says to me something like, yeah, look, you can make a suggestion, but I can't afford new windows right now. And I say to that customer, well, sir, I'm glad that you said that. That's exactly why I'm here. Mr. Jones, I'm glad that you said that. Actually, that's exactly why I'm here. All we would do is have one of our foremen come out to see what we can do. If we can do it, needs to be done there, find out what you like. And Mr. Jones, if we can't be a service to you, that's fine. We'll just recommend someone else who can. But if we can help you, then we'll show you our windows and leave you with a free price code. That way you have the information at least down the line whenever you're ready. You're designing what the script means to that customer. So it might get more specific. If the customer says something like, yeah, you can make a suggestion, but I need to buy a roof soon, so I'm not going to buy new windows right now. Then you might say something like, yeah, well, the roof is definitely more important than the windows. So I definitely get doing that first. That makes total sense. I'll tell you what, sir. All we would do is have one of our foremen come out to see if we could do what needs to be done here and find out what you'd like. And if we can't be a service team, so you're using their objection to recommit them to the script. Now we're going to go through this a lot more because I'm going to give you guys 2 of those, 2 things that you can use to get over these objections. But we're going to take a quick 10-minute break, bathroom break, smoke break, whatever. So I will be back in 10 minutes and we'll restart. Okay.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, Paul, I think you're on mute because nobody can hear you.
Guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
That's weird. It's the microphone thing because I wasn't on mute. Hold on one second.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, it was the microphone. Something was up with the microphone. All right. Well, let me back up then a second. So I just went through a bunch of important stuff too. So I'm going to go back on that again. So there's two things that we're talking about here when it comes to rebuttals. And there's two parts to what we're going to go through. So there's three total things we're going to go through. These two separate ways to do rebuttals outside of the rebuttals that you have. To design the script in a way that how do I put this? To design the script in a way that helps the customer understand why it's important what we're doing for them. So here's I'll just give you the example. So when I say, for example, like I said before, may I make a suggestion? And the customer says, I'm not really interested right now. Then to kill the objection, I might say something like, you know, Mr. Jones, I'm glad that you said that. That's exactly why I'm here. Okay. So the reason why I'm saying that is to kill the objection. The customer is not, in any normal world, is not going to feel like they are like they can say, hold on one second. I got to get back to this text messages. All right. The customer in any real world is not going to feel like they can come back and say the same objection again, right? Now, of course they can. Like the customer is not, nothing that you say can control exactly what the customer says, but you will have a deeper level of control of what the customer says if you exercise something like that. So for example, again, I say, may I make a suggestion? The customer goes, you know, look, I'm not really interested right now. And instead of saying, I didn't expect to catch you on the day you're ready to replace your windows, I say something like, well, Mr. Jones, you know, that's exactly why I'm here. I didn't expect to catch you on the day that you were ready to replace your windows. Now, you could even skip that I didn't expect to catch you part and just say, well, you know, Mr. Jones, I'm actually glad that you said that. That's exactly why I'm here. Because all we would do is simply have one of our foremen come out to see if we could even do what needs to be done here and find out what you like. And, you know, if we can't be of service to you, we'll just recommend someone else who can. But if we can help you. So again, you're changing you're killing the objection there for that customer. And you can do this a relatively unlimited amount of times because you have the ability to say, like I said, sir. So here's the thing that people don't understand, right? Is it a good thing to repeat yourself? Generally, no. Generally, people would say it's not a good thing to repeat yourself, right? I disagree with that. It's okay to repeat yourself as long as you acknowledge that you're going to repeat yourself. Now, what I mean by that is that, let's say the customer says again, let's say I say, well, does that sound helpful? And the customer goes, you know, I mean, kind of, but I'm really not interested right now. And I said, if I said something like, well, like I said, sir, that's why I'm here. As long as I add in the, well, like I said, sir, or like I just previously said, sir, or like I said a minute ago, sir, anything like that, as long as I acknowledge that I'm about to repeat myself, the customer's fine with that. The customer's fine with the repetition, as long as I acknowledge that repetition is going to exist, right? So if a customer said to me, you know, no, my windows are fine. And I referenced back and said, well, you know, I don't mean to repeat myself, sir, but like I said, your windows were warping pretty severely in the bottom level here. So the top windows look like they're doing okay. The bottom windows here look like they're having some pretty severe problems though, right? The like I said enables me to repeat myself really an unlimited amount of times. You know, we used to teach this scripting a lot back when I was up in Boston because there was so much repetition. It was almost obnoxious. I wouldn't recommend the amount of repetition that we did in Boston, the same damn rebuttals over and over again. It was not healthy. It was not good. But it just shows what we can do here with so much more knowledge. We've developed so much over the years. If you guys, and I love the guy who hired me. He's one of my best friends. He was the best man at my wedding. He's one of the greatest canvassers I've ever met. He is very old school, and there's not a lot of development in the scripting that we had up in Boston. It was very hard-nosed, very argue with the customer and see if you can win. It was not healthy. The amount of information that we have now, the amount of scripting that we have now, when I tell you this is the difference, guys, this is the difference. It is the difference. Why can you go to a place like North Carolina who has effectively the same script, I've given them our scripts and they have 62 canvases and they produce 7.5 million in sales and not nearly as much leads. They are getting per day less than half of one per person. Why can you go to North Carolina and with the same script have a completely different result? Why can you go to Arizona and they're celebrating callbacks with the relatively same, it's not the same script, but it's a little bit different, but they're close to this script. It's because the way that we are approaching the customers. It's because these things that make a significant difference in the way that we interact with the customers. So repetition is okay as long as you acknowledge it. So killing the objections is a better way to rebuttal than having to rebuttal the customer. What it does is it saves you the rebuttals. So now all of a sudden you are getting done with the script well past the value of the visit instead of being done in the window problems because you haven't rebutted the customer 4 times. Okay, the second part of the scripting, and I think you guys are going to like this a lot more. I think this is fun. You're changing the intent of the script. You have the ability, because you know the script and the customer doesn't, you have the ability to dictate what they think of the script and what you're going to say. They have no idea what's coming up next. For all they know, the next thing you're going to say is, okay, it's going to be $20,000, sign right here, right? They have no idea. And so when the customer says to you something, for example, I say, does that sound helpful? The customer goes, I just can't afford new windows right now. There's no way I can afford this. Well, Mr. Jones, now that you told me that, I'll tell you what I'll do different. I'll just have somebody come out just to take a look at the windows. Or actually I've been past that point. So we'll just come out, go over your options, answer any questions that you have. And we'll actually leave you with a free price quote that's good for a full year. So you don't feel any pressure or obligation whatsoever. Now, I just need a little bit of information from you. I have your last name as Jones. What's your first? So the key there is, again, the key words there would be, oh, well, now that you said that, sir, I'll tell you what I'll do is, right? And you think that fits anywhere. Okay. So does that, so I say, may I make a suggestion? The customer says, I got 2 kids in college, man. I really can't afford this right now. Oh, well, sir, I didn't know that. Now that you said that, I'll tell you what I'll do. I will just have somebody come out just to take a look at the windows to see if we can even do what needs to be done here, find out what you like. And if we can't be a service to you, that's okay, sir. We'll just recommend someone else who can. But if we can, then we'll leave you with a free price quote. That way down the line, you at least have the information set aside. Now, does that sound helpful to you? And then if the customer said to me, well, like I said, man, I can't do this right now. I got 2 kids in college. Oh, no, sir, I'm well aware. Like I just said prior, or the person just said, like I said, so I don't want to repeat myself, sir. But I'll tell you, that's exactly why I'm here. The whole goal of the visit is to go over your options, answer your questions, and leave you with a quote that's good for a full year. That way, everything's on your terms, sir. It's no obligation to you. Have the information set aside for when you're ready. That being said, I have your last name here as Jones. What's your first? Think about what you're doing there. You're changing the intention of the script. It's like gold. You know what I'm saying? The amount of customers that you're going to get from doing this. Now, here's the beauty of it. You still have every rebuttal that you've had. So now if the customer says, no, I'm just not interested right now. Well, of course, I didn't expect to catch you on the ready to place your windows. We're getting ahead of ourselves. It's just a free quote. It's good for a full year. Because again, now you're at a part where you're already past the value of the visit. That's the beauty of it, is that you still have all those rebuttals available to you. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? So I'll get that down in scripting for you guys to an extent. Here's the problem with scripting something like that is it's got to come from the heart. The customer has to feel like you're talking directly to them. It can't feel like a script. A script is something that you're saying to every person. This can't come off that way. It has to come off like you're saying it just to that person. So I'm going to say, may I make a suggestion to Kenny? He's going to give me an objection. And I'm going to use some of these tactics. Okay, so may I make a suggestion?
I mean, yeah, you really can. But I still have to do my roofing here first.
Yeah, well, you know, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it's definitely leaking here the past couple of years, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you got a leaking roof, that's way more important than windows, sir. And I mean, I'll tell you what, that's exactly why I'm here. All I would do, sir, is just have one of our phone come out just to check the windows for you. I'm guessing you plan to do the roof, you know,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
So we would just basically do the same thing. We check for leaks and things like that. And we see if we can do what needs to be done here, find out what you like. If we can't be a service to you, sir, then we'll just recommend someone else who can. But if we can, then we'll leave you with a free price quote. That way, down the line, after your roof, when you're ready, you at least have the information set aside. Now, does that sound helpful to you? Give me another objection.
It does, it really does. But again, like, because that roofing is like so important, I'm imagining it's gonna take up a lot of money here, so I don't really have the funds necessary.
Okay, well, you know, now that you put it that way, sir, I'll tell you what we'll do then. We'll just have somebody come out just to go over your options, answer any questions that you have, and then the quote that we leave you with is good for a full year. So then you have time to decide if we're even the right company for you. That being said, sir, I just need a little bit of information. I have your last name here as Cologne. What's your first?
Okay,
Okay. All right. So you see how that works?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm not using any rebuttals. Okay. I'm not using any rebuttals. And now I'm not averse to the rebuttals. I like the rebuttals. Obviously, I wrote a lot of the rebuttals, but now I have a whole set of rebuttals that I can use if the conversation was to have to go farther than that. And the customer doesn't feel like I'm bearing down on them because I've given them no rebuttals yet. We haven't gotten to a back and forth yet. As far as the customer is concerned right now, I've agreed with everything they said, right? How can they get angry with me? How can they get frustrated with me when I'm agreeing with everything they say? Oh, yeah, nurse. So, wow, I just said that weird. So, yes, sir. So, yeah, nurse. So, yes, sir. I actually absolutely agree. The roof is definitely more important than the windows, especially if it's leaking, right? I've agreed with what the customer is saying to this point. So they're not going to get frustrated with me. The contrary, they're going to be happy with our interaction. So this is only going to help that interaction, right? That's the benefit to what we're doing here. So does anybody have any questions about that? I mean, this is probably new to a lot of you guys. Okay, so I asked you guys this question then, okay? Who is not using this right now or not using it to the fullest extent? Who feels like they're not using it to the fullest extent? Okay, Kenny says he's not. All right, who else? You can unmute yourself and say something or just put your little thumb up. Okay, so Casey raises his hand too. Okay, cool. Travis, you unmuted yourself?
Yeah, I'm using it to a certain extent. Maybe not to the extent that you're going over it right now, but
Okay, cool. All right, sounds good. And I see that Man of Gold gave the thumbs up. I don't know who that is, but
Tyler from West.
oh, okay. All right, what's up, Tyler? How you doing?
Not bad, not bad.
Okay, so and I'm guessing that there's some others too that I just didn't see here because my guess is that, you know, I'll tell you this. I'll give you an example. I was talking to Chase the other day, and it was after he had gotten a 5 lead day. He had a couple like 3 to 5 lead days in a row. It was last week, and he had texted me or called me when I was in Florida, and he said, you know, this stuff that we're going over, especially that last thing where you're saying to the customer, you know, okay, so I'll tell you why or what I'll do for you. I'll tell you what I'll do for you now, right? And you're changing the intent of the script. He had said that helped him get every single one of those leads. That was the missing piece for him in that situation. Now, whether or not that's exactly true, I don't think he's lying, but whether or not that's the reality or that's just how he feels, my guess is it helped quite a bit. And if you're out there, now, Casey, by the way, too, I see your hand still up. Do you have a question or are you just agreeing with the fact that you're not using this stuff 100%?
Sorry about that. I didn't know that stayed up.
No problem. I
Watching
just
the
want to make
kids.
sure. I just want to
Yep.
make sure.
I actually, Paul, do have a question.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
use some of these. I use some of the rebuttals and kind of put it in my own way, but there was a lot that came up yesterday that I didn't know how to approach, and it was people who have had quotes in the past, like over the last few years, and they were saying like, "Well, unless your window's gotten cheaper, get off my property." And if I'm trying to go through the script and stuff with them, is there a good way to rebuttal that, or
Well,
what should I kind of do in that situation?
I put two things into perspective. Okay. The first thing I'll put into perspective is the amount of people you'll get people that say, I got a quote in the last couple of years or last couple of months or whatever. You'll have people that say, I've gotten a quote already, unless it's cheaper, then I'm not going to do it again. But the amount of people that are going to say, if it's not cheaper, then get off my property. If you have more than one person like that in a day, then get me the addresses and I'll go back to myself, because there's definitely something in the introduction that we can do differently than at that point, because that's not something that you should be getting on a daily basis or multiple times in a day, right? You will get people that got quotes already and stuff like that, but the way that they approach you typically is not going to be, and they will say expense is definitely the number one reason why some people don't buy. It's an expensive window. It's a high quality window, the only thing that you can do in a situation like that, though, it's not going to be cheaper for the customer. You don't want to lie to the customer. What you can say is, well, Mr. Jones, it's obviously a very high quality window. Did you like the quality of the window? And they're going to say yes. Okay. Did you like the look of the window, sir? Yes. Okay. So my guess is, sir, the only reason why you didn't buy was the price of the window then, right? Okay. So then they're probably going to say yes. So at this point now, you've got them to agree with, essentially, they would buy this window if it was in the appropriate price range for them. Another question, the key question is, do you see the value in the windows? So I know it's something that you said you can't afford right now, or something that you said was too expensive, but do you see the value in the windows, sir? And if they answer yes to that question, that's key. Okay, because now they've answered that they know it's important. Those windows it's important to change those windows. They know that, right? Then at that point, you have them set up for okay, so well, if we could find better options for you, maybe less expensive options for you, windows, good windows from our company, is that something that you might be interested in? You can even ask the question just like that. And if they say yes to that question, or they say, well, I don't know, maybe, then what I would do is I would say, okay, well, we'll have one of the sales managers come out, or one of the foreman's managers come out, and they will leave you with a free price quote. And they might be able to give you some better options on how you can afford the windows. Now, the way that they would do that in reality, and that's why you don't want to say it's going to be cheaper, because it's not, is they would find different ways to finance the customer that would make it less expensive. So, for example, our average sale is $21,000 or something like that through the network. Okay, $22,000. Our average sale here was like $19,500. So $22,000 financed at a 6.99 APR finance rate over 180 months is less than $200. It's $191, okay, per month. So I wouldn't tell the customer that, but my point is that there's a good chance that they can get the windows, their entire house full of windows, for less than $191 per month, right? Now, I wouldn't say that to a customer, again, because A, you're committing to them something that you can't commit to. What if their credit's bad? You can't commit to that. But that's how we would make it. That's how we would make it more palatable for the customer. So you ask those key questions, get them to agree with the quality of the window, get them to agree with the look of the window, get them to agree with the energy efficiency of the window, and then get them to agree with the value of the window. And then at that point, if I could, the way it would go again is, well, if I could get somebody out here that could make it more affordable for you, would be a good way to say that too. More affordable for you, Mr. Jones. That would probably be the best way to say it. Then would that be something that would interest you? Okay. Or I'm guessing that's something that would interest you. Okay. And then if they say yes to that, now I know it's a very non-aggressive script. Well, it's a situation that right now you're probably losing 100% of the time in, right? So if you can get 10% of the wins there, then this is a good way to do it. You want to do this with more agreement because the way that the customer approach you. Well, I'll tell you what I do. What I do is I'll have one of our managers come out. It will be a quicker process too, Mr. Jones. You're not going to have to sit through the whole thing, and you can promise them that, by the way. But I'll have one of our managers come out, and it will be a much quicker process, sir. They'll leave you with an updated quote with maybe some better options, some more affordable options for you and your family. Okay. That being said, I just go into the information for that point. Okay. I just need a little bit of information from you. Boom, boom, boom. Make sense?
Yeah. And then, sorry to keep asking questions, but
No,
my
you're good,
second
man.
question,
Ask away.
and I asked some of the guys last night in the van on the ride back to the shop. I had two people yesterday tell me that they set up appointments in the past and nobody came out. And I was like, oh, well, how long ago was that? And, I trying to, say what the guys, like, I was bouncing it off the guys. And I one of them, I said, well, let's get you a new quote and get somebody to come out here for you. And at that point, when they're like, no, because I trusted your company once, but nobody came out. How do you
most of the time, most of the time, the reality is that we have a confirmation process, and we're not going to show up to their house if they don't confirm the appointment. So if you look up, for example, if you get hold on one second. My buddy's calling me. I need to answer this quick. He's in a little bit of trouble. Hey, what's up, man? I'm at work. All right, sounds good. I'll give you a call back soon. All right, bye. So the reality is that they probably got it caught up in the confirmation process. And I would just tell them that. That's the first thing I would say. Well, sir, we have a confirmation process because we typically don't want to show up to your house if nobody's going to be home. So my guess is that something got caught up in there. And I do apologize. What I can do for you, sir, is we have something called a VIP program. And again, this is a little bit of spin. We have something called a VIP program. I'll make sure that you get a priority appointment and I'll give you a $500 gift card for the inconvenience for you. So we can definitely set something up. So I just need a little bit of information from you. That's the best way to handle something like that.
Yeah, that tended
Okay,
to be
cool.
a theme out there where we were yesterday, that people said that nobody showed up.
Yeah, my guess is whoever the canvassers were or whoever was out there was not gathering second phone numbers. And that's probably why we're having a confirmation issue.
Okay.
All right, cool. Thank you.
That would be
That
my
helps a
guess.
lot, Paul. I appreciate that.
No problem. No problem at all. Kenny, go ahead.
Going back to what you were saying about like they had us out before and like the whole pricing, what we can do is have the manager come out.
Mhm.
Make it quicker and do all that.
Maybe
That's
more
something we would-
affordable than you,
More affordable.
for you, not than you.
Is that something we would put in the notes as well, or is that just like a way of?
Yeah, no, it's so you don't need to put it in the notes because it's gonna happen automatically. If they have a situation like that where the person got a quote, then they're gonna put a senior representative on it. And then it's gonna be pitched that way anyways. So, you can put it in the notes, have a senior representative out, didn't like last pricing or something like that, or didn't like last rep or whatever, that's fine.
Yeah.
Or you can just tell me about it, I can take care of it.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
Nope.
Any other questions on Zoom here? Okay, so what I want to know too is I want you guys' feedback. Did you find this helpful? And give me an honest answer, okay? I want to know, and there's a reason for this, because I'm going to be doing a Zoom with a lot of different companies at the end of the month, and I have to decide what I want to do and what I want to put in that Zoom, and I'm going to need some help and feedback in order to do that. Now, it's going to be on starting a canvassing department, so I don't know how deep I'm going to dive into this stuff, but I definitely want to get some feedback on whether or not this is helpful for you. So give me honest feedback. If it's not, then if you can give me a reason why. If it is, then if you can give me a reason why, that'd be great as well. Kenny, I'm going to start with you.
Sorry. Definitely. That was definitely helpful with some of the things that you were saying. I feel like from other